Hello, I'm Dr. Robert Shapiro, and today I wanted to show you a lab report on a patient that we did recently in order to figure out why they were spontaneously falling asleep so frequently. My first suspicion when this patient contacted me is that he was suffering from sleep apnea, but we decided to run some blood work while we were waiting to get him into to his primary physician so that they could do a sleep apnea study on him. And so what we did was we ran this panel on him, and I decided, just because of his circumstances, he's a 31-year-old male, Hispanic, works in the Bay Area, commutes every day from Stockton to primarily the peninsula, but he also works up in Sacramento. He's basically a project manager for a construction company, and so he has to manage multiple locations and multiple people. He's under a great deal of stress. His diet isn't the greatest. He eats on the run quite a bit. He hasn't been working out for months. He used to play racquetball pretty frequently, and he has not been doing that for several months now. Lifts weights periodically. He's about 5'8" and weighs approximately 260 pounds, so he's overweight. But he's a muscular person, so he's not what I would consider obese. He's mainly overweight. And so anyways, we ran this report, and Cleveland Heart Lab has a really excellent inflammation and cholesterol panel. And so that's one of the reasons that I like to use them as a lab. So I'm going to get into that with you right now. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to show you some markers. These markers right here are inflammation markers for the cardiovascular system primarily. This is a marker that will detect very trace amounts of inflammation in the arterial system. This marker right here, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, is kind of the gold standard for cardiac inflammation. And you can see on this individual, even though he's 31 years old, he already has some moderate inflammation in his heart, and so this is a problem. We need to address this now. If we do, we will save this person's life. We will help to extend his quality of life, and he'll be less likely to have a catastrophic event at an early age, or at any age for that matter. Scrolling down, these markers right here, again, markers for atherosclerosis, and so thankfully he's not really showing any signs of a hardening of the arteries or plaquing of the arteries, but with enough time he'll end up having that problem. We're going to come down a little further. We're going to show you the Cleveland Heart Lab's NMR lipid profile, and what this is they have a methodology for looking at all of the different types of cholesterol particles that your body will manufacture. And the reason why this is significant is that normal cholesterol panel only measures basic LDL, basic HDL, total cholesterol, triglycerides, and maybe your VLDLs, which is very low density lipoproteins. This actually breaks it down into more what we call like the oxidized particles, and these particles are the ones that tend to stick to your arteries. And so what we can see is some red criticals on his lab work. Again, this guy's 31 years old and he's already showing cholesterol problems. So this is why we do this screening. It's to detect these things very early on. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. We're going to look at some of his other markers I wanted to point out. So this right here, this panel right in front of you, this omega check panel, this is to test your fatty acid level. So this is important because fatty acids are what regulate inflammation in your body. They're hugely important raw materials for your cell wall. So when you look at a cell in the body, a liver cell, a kidney cell, a brain cell, it's constructed of a nucleus in the center. It has a cell wall on the outside to protect its inner world from the outer world and allow them to exchange materials with each other. And between the nucleus and the cell wall, you have what's called cytoplasm, which is just kind of like the the guts of the cell, if you will, you know, the organs and such, and the circulatory system. And so the cell wall is hugely important for containing the contents of the cell, or holding those contents within and keeping them separated from the fluid outside, because your cells basically float inside a fluid in your body for the most part. And those cell walls are constructed out of lipids or fats. And so we are made out of one of three types of fats: omega-9s, omega-6s, and omega-3s. The most important of those two are the omega-6s and the 3s. Omega-6s actually are oftentimes called pro-inflammatory fats, and omega-3s are oftentimes called anti-inflammatory fats. And what we want to see is a healthy ratio between those two fats. And in this particular individual, you can see that he is grossly out of range. He should be well over 5.5. With his omega check results, he's at a 3.2, not good. His arachidonic levels are extremely high. Arachidonic acid is a very, very inflammatory fatty acid. It's essential for the inflammatory response, but too much is like, think of it this way. Whenever we initiate the inflammatory response, and usually this happens because of we get an infection or we get an injury. And so when we initiate this inflammatory response, normally you want to go in with controlled demolitions. You want to go in and burn out the damage, but you don't want to go overboard. When your body has this really high level of omega-6 to omega-3 balance, what you have is kind of like, it's almost like you have explosive devices already laid out. And so when you go in to light the torches, you start getting explosions, and that's not good, because you get uncontrolled demolitions and you have greater damage that occurs. So this is a big problem, and it will ultimately lead to accelerated aging. It will lead to disease processes, and it will lead to a shorter lifespan. And definitely it will have a huge effect on your quality of life. So we're going to go down to, where is it at? Okay, so we're going to look at his omega-3 levels, and his omega-3 total is 3.2. What I really want to point out to you is these two fats right here, the EPA and the DHA. EPA is more of a whole body essential fat. DHA is more of what a lot of people will refer to as like a brain fat. And so DHA is very important for the developing brain. Pregnant women, mothers, they want to consume a lot of this for their baby, their unborn child. EPA more regulates and governs body inflammation and such. And so both of them are important. In this individual, he's very undernourished in regards to those. At least 4.0 we want on the DHA, at least 2.0 on the EPA. You can see that he's very, very low. He has a very low status of these things, so we would want to up those in his diet. The bottom line with him, the way I'm going to help him to address it, I mean, obviously we would want to change his diet. We want him to consume more fat-rich foods, healthy fats. We want him to consume less carbohydrates. We want him to consume a little bit more protein, and we need to get him on a regimented eating schedule. Unfortunately, this isn't always possible. People don't always cooperate. They can't always wrap their minds around it. And so usually what I do to address it, to give a person basically an immediate effect very easily and very effectively, I will put them on supplements to bring these levels into balance. In his situation, I'm going to get him on a high quality fish oil supplement and boost his omega-3s very quickly. And what that will do is it will help to change that omega-6-3 ratio very drastically. It'll help get his inflammation way down, and it will help get his heart markers down a little bit too. In regards to the C-reactive protein, I'm going to address that using a high quality vitamin E supplement. Vitamin E is a great repair of the cardiovascular system. And so anytime you see somebody with a high C-reactive protein or a high degree of artery inflammation, one of the best things that we can use to get fast results is vitamin E, and obviously you can also try to address it with high vitamin E foods, and those are easy to find. You can do a search online. Just Google foods high in vitamin E. Wheat germ oil, certain grains, etc. have vitamin E in them. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you today. I know I took a little bit more time than I expected to, but hopefully you found that interesting. If you did, let us know. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. And you have a great day. Thank you.